It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, folks, Canon published their FY 2024. The numbers are in. They also posted an impairment charge of $1,069 million. $1,069 million impairment charge. I told you all Canon would have an impairment charge coming soon. It came. I'll share some thoughts in today's episode. They also had a big announcement at Canon. The CEO is thinking about outsourcing the manufacturing of the low-end printers and cameras. Folks, this is huge. I mean, think about this. Canon has the largest market share worldwide of small printers. They make a whole lot of HPs, right? So here you are. You have a manufacturer that owns the marketplace. They have the largest market share of small printers, and they're thinking about outsourcing the manufacturing of those machines. That's just crazy, right? Boy, this needs a lot of discussion. Our industry really needs to pay attention to this. I mean, there's a whole lot of folks that thought Canon would be one of a few manufacturers left when all this shakes out, as the industry continues to go under pressure, consolidate, be disrupted by digital transformation. A lot of things are going to change. But Canon, the one with the largest market share in the world of small printers, is deciding to outsource it, the manufacturing. And the reason is because it doesn't matter how many printers you sell, you got to put supplies in them. Without the supplies, it's a broken model. Our industry is a razor and blade model. And no OEM wants to make a whole bunch of razors if nobody's putting the blades in them. And Canon has to adjust their thinking. They have to adjust their cost, like every OEM on the planet. And there's going to be decisions made over the next couple of years that are going to blow the minds of those unimaginative status quo people in our industry. Let's talk about this $1,069 million impairment charge in the medical division. The medical division total revenue for FY 2024 was $3.7 billion, had an operating profit loss of $920.2 million. And folks, I know, Canon, like the other folks, they like to say, without the impairment charge, we had a 4.3% operating profit in our medical division. But no, you had an operating profit loss of $920.2 million because there was an impairment charge. Folks, at the end of December of 2023, I told you all, hey, Canon's percentage of goodwill as a percentage of their assets is just way too high. It was 19.5%. It should be like 10. And I was telling y'all, Canon, they're going to have an impairment charge coming soon. They ended the year of December 24 at 16%. Their goodwill represents 16% of their total assets. It still has to go down. It should be like 10%. I will tell you this. If they decide, in fact, they are going to outsource the manufacturing of their low-end printer equipment and cameras, we should see some more impairment charges. It's only logical. Right now, their asset-to-equity ratio is 63.9%, meaning 36.1% of their assets are encumbered. Nothing really wrong with that. But at the end of the day, their goodwill as a percentage of their assets is still too high at 16%. This also applies for our friends at Ricoh. I've been telling you, Ricoh's going to have a big impairment charge coming soon. We'll see how their year ends. Their year end will end March of 2025. But I expect they're going to have an impairment charge. Of course, at Ricoh, we all expect that. That's their business plan, right? Let's run around and we'll buy all kinds of stuff. We'll have all these hopes and dreams. Then we'll wake up in a nightmare. We'll have a big impairment charge. And then we'll start all over with hopes and dreams. And as we're traveling with our hopes and dreams, we'll barely deliver any operating profit because Ricoh barely delivers any operating profit. Our friends at Konica Minolta, I looked at their numbers. That'll be Monday's episode. Stay tuned, but it's nothing pretty. I don't know why Canon and these other OEMs don't get together and take that company off the map. And I know that sounds mean, but at the end of the day, we got to get rid of some of these folks. There's way too much supply versus demand. The only way we're going to be able to raise prices as an industry is to do what? We got to tighten up on the supply. We can't have so much supply out there. People are giving stuff away. Get rid of Konica. Wipe them off the map. They're a floundering fish. Nikkei Asia. Canon eyes outsourcing abroad and shift from in-house focus. This is such a big story, folks. I saw it in the Recycler. In the Recycler, they actually talked about how Canon's thinking about using the 9-star Gigafactory in Zhuhai, China. And I'm thinking, okay, that's crazier than hell. I mean, wouldn't Canon be completely insane to outsource manufacturing to the UFLPA, banned PRC, the People's Republic of China 9-star? Remember, they got banned, right? I mean, you're going to outsource. I hope that's not true. But I got to tell you, Canon's done some really stupid things. What was the dumbest thing Canon ever did? I've talked about this a lot, but it reminded me when she brought up the fact in this article that Canon and HP, what's going to happen with that deal? Because we know that Canon makes most of the HP little machines, right? Well, folks, the dumbest thing Canon ever did was when their CEO sent a letter to HP when Xerox was trying to buy HP and said if they ever came together, that would threaten and jeopardize the relationship that Canon had with HP. That was a stupid, stupid thing. And I told the whole world, this is dumb, the day that letter went out. And could you imagine if Canon actually embraced Xerox and HP coming together, where they would be today? They wouldn't be thinking about who they're going to outsource manufacturing to. They'd be sitting in a position and they would probably be the largest manufacturer in all segments. If they could have got out of their own way, if they could have thought clearly about the future. They really, really screwed that one up. Let's look at the total revenue for Canon for FY 2024. Total revenue was $29.6 billion. They had an operating profit of $1.8 billion or 6.2%. And I got to put the pen down. I'm going to congratulate them. That's great. I mean, they had a $1.069 billion impairment charge in one of their business units, but they ended up as a company with 6.2% operating profit of $1.8 billion on $29.6 billion in revenue. That's pretty strong. I mean, we see some other folks that are just floundering out there. They get an impairment charge and they don't make any money for 10 years, right? A while back, I put this slide together and I was comparing the conglomerates' total operating profit. So if you took the conglomerates, you added up their operating profit for 5 years, did an average, and that was from 2019 to 2023. What did it come out to? And I just want to remind everybody that Canon was not number one. They were number 5. They are not the best. And I know a lot of folks, they think Canon is just the best company out there. They do everything right. They make all the right decisions. They don't. They're a player in an industry that's being consolidated and pressured by innovation, by a decline in their core deliverable. And Canon, like everybody else on that board, is going to have to make decisions that are going to be really, really tough, and they're going to really, really shock the unimaginative and the status quo, I assure you. At the end of FY 2024 for the other actors, which will end in March of 2025, I'll redo this. We'll add that 6 year. We'll see where they're all at. But Canon's not going to be number one. They might move up from number 5 one notch or two, but they're not number one. And I think everybody needs to pay attention to that. Let's look at their different business units. The printing business, $16.5 billion in top-line revenue with an operating profit of $1.9 billion or 11.5%. I got to put the pen down again. That's fantastic. Fantastic numbers. If you look at their imaging business, $6.1 billion with a 16.1% operating profit. Their industrial business, $2.4 billion top-line revenue with a 19.3% operating profit. But here's where I have a little bit of a struggle. They got this corporate and others, and I just hate this because they show an operating profit loss of $597.3 million. $597.3 million operating profit loss in others in corporate. But what the, there should be really rifle-focused details on that. Because I think a lot of times these folks are taking cost out of the print business, dumping it somewhere else so they can inflate the operating profit. I'm not saying they're doing that, but are they? And of course, we got our friends over here in the medical business unit, which was the train wreck. They had $3.7 billion in top-line revenue with an operating profit of $920.2 million. We'll see how all this pans out as they go forward. The printing business. They talk about how they want to expand market share in the MFD office space. I got to ask them, what do you define market share? What are you talking about? How are you going to expand it? Where's the decisions you're going to make? Are you going to buy another OEM? Are you going to pick up all of Konica Minolta's direct operations as you wipe them off the map? I mean, what are you going to do to expand your market share in the office MFD space? And folks, all these OEMs have to start really thinking aggressively about this. They have to do some bold stuff. Because even if they grow the market share, all the machines they put in that market share are going to print less every single day they're there. Let's talk about this printing business by its buckets. Production did $2.9 billion. Office, which is office MFDs and others, total of $6.9 billion. Office MFDs was $4.2 billion. So office MFDs did $4.2 billion. That's where Canon's saying we got to increase our market share in that space. But again, what does that mean? Do you think Canon might just go to Etra and say, hey, Etra, and Etra's the, that manufacturing company that Rico and Toshiba Tech started, and Canon say, hey, I want to join this. I want to join this with you. Give me a piece of the action. You can make all of our little machines for now, and eventually we'll give you the MFDs. You can make those too. Who knows? But there's going to be a lot of changes in this print space, I assure you. The prosumer group, laser printers and inkjet printers, $6.8 billion. That's the business that they're pretty much talking about outsourcing the manufacturing of. Lots of changes coming to Canon. This slide shares with you, and this was at the end of FY 2023, the percentage of revenue overall to the company of the different buckets. The printing represents 56% of Canon's total revenue. Industrial is 8%. Imaging, the camera business, is 21%. The medical business is 13%. The medical business at Canon is nowhere near in the bad shape that we saw with Konica Minolta's medical business. Yes, they had a big impairment charge, but if you look back in time, they always run about a 5, 6. Their operating profit wasn't too bad in that medical division. They just decided to, align some of the goodwill assets with reality. We'll see where Canon goes, but this is a big decision, them deciding to outsource manufacturing if they do that. That is a wake-up call to our industry. When a major player who owns the market share decides they want to outsource that product, it's manufacturing, that's a wake-up call. And hopefully the industry will wake up. Because everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer. All will be invented. Don't get stuck there. And I'll see you all on Monday.